Hey, I'm hoping that this video helps some people out there. This is a 2020 Silverado LM2 3.0 two-wheel drive. It has about 75,000 miles. I had a transmission issue that the dealership had a hard time diagnosing. I believe that extra stress from the transmission caused this right motor mount to fail, passenger side that is. This is the old one. You can see all the oil that it leaked out there. That's electrical solenoid that goes connected, but anyways, you can see all the play that it has on it. And then when I tipped it upside down, that's when all that oil came out. This is the new one. The new one has been updated. There are some changes. So it doesn't come with the solenoid anymore, and that mount on top that gets mounted onto the bracket which mounts onto the block of the engine is thicker. You can see it's quite a difference. So I'm hoping that doesn't play a factor or a barrier when I go to mount it on the vehicle. Anyways, the vehicle or the Chevy calls for 9 hours worth of work or labor to do this job, which all data calls the same because they go based off of what the dealership recommends. What they instruct is to remove the catalytic converter, which starts from here, and that's all that piece, and it actually connects down there to the exhaust valve body. So all this canister, which is the catalytic converter, and this here, that's all one piece that it comes out. And they recommend removing these hoses for the AC lines, and then the coolant hoses. Anything that's in the way here needs to come out. The fuse boxes need to come out. The battery and the fuse box on top, the battery tray needs to come out. So basically you're clearing out this whole area. That way you can take out that catalytic converter and make space to remove the motor mount. Let me grab a flashlight. So instead of doing it that way, I decided to tackle it from the side. I removed the wheel well, and I removed a few components here. I'm going to show you this. This is just a plastic, you can call it a bracket, I guess. It gets mounted onto the frame, and then there's a lot of zip ties that hold these harnesses onto that plastic bracket. So it's really a bracket to hold the wiring harnesses to the frame. It has 2 bolts that hold it in place. One on the rear, about here, and I believe that was a 13 millimeter, and another one in the front, and I think that was a 10 millimeter. And then from there, it was just a lot of snaps and like I said, zip ties that you had to undo. Once you get that out of the way, and before that, you had to get the liner out of the way. From there, I removed. There was a wiring harness that was connected to the rear of the starter. So I got that wiring harness out of the way, and removed there's a bracket that connects the catalytic converter. Let's see, it's hard to see right now. There's a bracket that connects the catalytic converter from underneath over to there and to there. So 2 nuts on top, 2 bolts on the block. You have to get that out of the way in order to start to reach around and start taking off the bolts for the mount. Really, it's not that bad of a job. I don't think it was much more than that. once you remove a lot of these wires out of the way. So underneath the vehicle, to lift the engine, what I did was I grabbed a block of wood and used nails from underneath, a few nails, to secure it to another piece of wood, and I am using them to lift the front end of the transmission right before it mounts to the engine. So this will be the engine here, and there's a nice thick area here. So I'm using this wood to raise the engine, and it was able to raise it enough to get the motor mount out. Did have to wiggle the bracket and the motor mount out of place, but in order to remove the motor mount, once I lifted it up, I had to remove that back bracket that's hanging there. Let me grab my pointer again. That back bracket, see, right now is loose. I left one screw or one bolt, which is there, and it has 3 other bolts, 2 on the top, 1 on the left lower. That bolt or that bracket holds the motor mount against the block, but I had to loosen the other bolts. That way I had enough space to remove the motor mount, and I was able to wiggle it out through here instead of doing it through the top, how GM recommends. I hope this video helps some of you guys out. So it's really just that wiring harness, the starter electrical wires, the wheel well cover, some of the like the brake line, how to get loose. So after I replaced the motor mount on the passenger side, I had a really bad vibration on the truck. The best way I can describe it is, imagine being in a gas-powered vehicle and you have that strong misfire. Well, that's exactly how it felt. And the next clip here, I'll show you what I did to diagnose the issue. It took me about 10 hours. This is just a fast version on how I discovered what it was. It was worse on the driver's side than the right side. So I was thinking that maybe by changing the right motor mount and lifting up the engine, it damaged the left motor mount. After changing the left motor mount with a new mount, I still had the vibration. If anything, it got a little worse. And then the only other piece in between was going to be that bracket that goes right there, and it's a piece that sits in between the block and the motor mount. The motor mount's right there. To remove the motor mount, there's only one coolant line in the way, which sits right across. If you remove that coolant line, which is sitting up there right now, you can see the tip right there. If you remove that coolant line, the motor mount comes out, and actually you can actually rotate it 360 and keep continuing to rotate it out through here. It comes out very smooth if you go to change your driver's side motor mount. And you could probably get this done in an hour and a half in total. The coolant, it leaks out through that right there. What I did was I put a finger from a glove, and I put a zip tie to prevent it from leaking too much. I did get some on the ground, but it wasn't too much. Let's see. I was comparing the brackets. There is a change in the motor mount itself too. They've updated these motor mounts and revised them like 4 times. But I was comparing the brackets, and initially I didn't really see a difference because I was looking at it through the top. I thought maybe I bent the angle of these bolts, but the angle doesn't look too much of a difference. But when I came to the side, you can see there is a difference where, let me see if I could grab something. You can see there's a difference. The height, or I should say the width from front to back, of the new motor mount is actually on the thinner side than the older motor mount. So maybe that's what's happening with the other side as well. We'll see if this vibration goes away by changing this bracket. If it doesn't, I'm probably gonna have to change the passenger side again, or take apart the passenger side to change that bracket. That one's more difficult. That took about 5 or 6 hours, maybe even a little bit longer. But at least this side, it wasn't too bad, and I'm able to see that there's a big difference between the revised brackets that the new mounts call for versus the existing. They both say LM2 left hand, LM2 left hand. LM2 is the motor design, and this is a 2020 LM2. So this is the bracket for this motor. I searched the part number by the VIN, and this is the correct part number. I'll keep you guys updated. There's a few changes with these new mounts compared to the old ones. One of the obvious ones is the thickness of the aluminum. The new mount is much thicker than the old mount. This aluminum here also protrudes. That lower portion protrudes. This is the new one. It's flush, yeah, but it has a V-shaped engraved onto it. The old mount does not. The old mount is solid on top. The new mount has a cutout with a bolt in the center. Another change is the old mount has a solenoid that's supposed to adjust the stiffness of the mount depending on the vibration, while the new mount does not. I also believe that the pitch of the angle for these mounts have changed as well. You can see that mount, even though this one's worn and it's moving a lot more than the new one, but that is centered out. I'm looking at the inside, that is centered out compared to this new one. I believe the angle of this one versus this one has changed. That's even more a reason why you need to change the brackets when you change these mounts. So the truck is running smooth again after changing the bracket for the driver's side motor mount. I initially changed the passenger side motor mount, then I changed the driver's side motor mount, but it wasn't until I changed the bracket for the motor mount on the driver's side that the vibration went away. What I recommend anyone that's going to be changing these mounts is don't just change the side that's bad. Go ahead and plan to change both the driver and passenger side, and change the brackets for both sides, the passenger and driver side. When I bought these parts, I saw that the motor mounts through the dealership was $150, but I ended up ordering it through the Chevy parts website, and it got delivered to the dealership. Instead of paying $150 for each mount, I paid about $95 per mount, and the brackets are listed at the dealership directly for $30 a piece. I ended up purchasing it on the Chevy website parts for about $20 a piece. So all in all, maybe a little over 200, maybe 225. At the same time, I ordered some GM coolant through them, through the ChevyParts.com as well. Like I said, everything is delivered to the Chevy dealership, and this is because on the driver's side, you have to disconnect that coolant hose. If you do it quickly, I think I didn't even use half of a gallon, so I still have a half of a gallon there. The first time I wasn't as quick, so I used a little bit more, but the second time it was less than half of a gallon that I used. So just have that finger glove ready and have that zip tie ready. Besides that, I don't have anything else for you guys. Thanks for watching this video until the end. I hope this helps many people out there. I did find a forum where a lot of people were complaining about the same issue, and they brought it back to the dealership after having this replaced at the dealership, and it seems like they didn't get a solution. So for those people, sorry you had to go through that experience, and I hope that this video helps you guys out.